In the know.
Good evening, everyone.
In the know.
Tony Reeves, Tony Reeves, Tony Reeves, Tony Reeves, fire. Following the news in any way, shape, or form. No shortage of things to talk about. What does it mean? What will it bring? This is a reality we simply have to accept. Tony Reeves, fire. Tony Reeves. Let's go ahead and get started.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about medications and the big picture with regards to your disability claim. I know we did a couple of videos earlier this week that talked about medication, and one of my earlier videos, which has been very popular, is what your medications say about you. I want to kind of see if I can bring all this medication discussion in kind of succinct way. First of all, remember, the treatment or the medication that you're receiving does not automatically mean you're disabled. I cannot tell you the number of times I've had people who have been so fixated on the fact that because they're taking a particular medication or they're undergoing a certain treatment regimen, that should be hands down supportive information to support the fact that their condition is so severe that they can't work. And I tell people all the time, it's not like that. Social Security has to look at the entire picture. So please, if you're in a situation where, let's say that your medication is like morphine sulfate or Percocet or Vicodin, or maybe you're getting certain shots and so forth. Maybe there's a very unique type of therapy that you're receiving that you only receive when you've gotten to that particular point. Do not use that as your benchmark to say that my case is so severe they should approve me right off the gate, because that's not the way it works. Trust me, when they're looking at your case, the judge may look at the medication, and this is how weird stuff happens. Like, you look in the records and the objective evidence does not necessarily support the severity of your condition, but it looks like the doctor's just kind of treating your symptoms based on what you're telling them. So I cannot stress enough that when you see that, it gives the appearance that maybe your condition is not as bad as you say it is. So I always tell people all the time, do not fixate. Let me say this again. Do not fixate on the fact that your medication or the treatment you're receiving is a clear-cut slam dunk supporting of the fact that you're disabled, because they don't just focus just on your meds. Okay. Second of all, if the only thing that you have left, I'll make sure I get straight. If the only thing you have left is to take these particular medications or this treatment, it is very important, if you can, get your doctors to support why they're giving you this particular regimen. Here's where, let me see if I can explain a little bit further. Let's assume, for instance, that you've gone through everything. You've gone through a variety of surgeries, you've gone through a variety of physical therapies, whatever the case may be, and the only thing you have left that is giving you some ability to function in life is these medications. It is really important, if it's at all possible, see if you can get your doctor to write a statement to that effect. Basically saying, listen, they've exhausted all avenues of normal, conservative, and even aggressive treatment. This is the only thing we can do, because this is the only thing that can give them relief, because nothing else works. That goes so much farther than you realize. Now, I know some of you are like, Attorney Reeves, it's hard as hell to get a doctor to write that. I got you. We there. But I'm just trying to tell you, it's important, because a lot of times it's so hard, because I'll have clients will go into hearing, and that's the argument they'll make to the court, is that I tried everything. This is the only thing that's left. And in essence, looking at the file, it may actually support that. But if you could have a doctor that could tie it all together, nobody's asking them to say what you are or not able to do. You're just asking them, will they tie everything together to at least substantiate the fact that you've exhausted all other types of treatment, and the only thing you can do right now is medication to at least give you some sense of normalcy in your life. All right. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to talk about a couple of more things that you need to be aware of as it relates to medication and the big picture that relates to Social Security.
Under the Social Security regulations, representatives are permitted to practice before the administrative agency anywhere in the country, which means that when you're looking for a representative, you can find someone who doesn't necessarily have to be in your state if you're just going before the administrative agency. So it's possible to have an attorney or representative who's from Utah, even though you may be in Georgia. And our office is actually no different. So if you're wondering which states we cover, check this out. tricky part is once you have to sue the Social Security Administration. Under that situation, you want to have an attorney that's representing you in your jurisdiction. So if you have a representative who's in another state and you've gone all the way to the appeals council and you've been denied and you want to sue the Social Security Administration, you make sure you ask that representative whether or not they can sue someone in that particular state.
Okay, here's a couple of other things we talked about. As you know, we talked about in the first portion of the show was just because you're getting a particular treatment or medication regimen doesn't necessarily mean that you're disabled. We also talked about the fact that if it's the only thing that you're doing medication, if that's all that's left, if your doctors can write statements to support that. So we got those two things out the way. Here's a couple of other things. Be prepared to explain if there's any treatments that they've recommended but you've chosen not to do. I mean, seriously, this is going to sound kind of weird, but sometimes doctors will put in your notes that there are particular types of treatments that you need to have, but for whatever reason, you haven't gotten them. Now, trust when I say, some of the reasons are probably very legitimate. You don't have the money, you don't have the insurance, maybe this was a recommendation that was made as a result of your personal injury claim, maybe a workers' comp claim, maybe you had a workers' comp case and the workers' comp insurance was covering it, but once you settled your case, workers' comp was like, peace out, dog, I can't get you, you're on your own. And maybe the procedure that would have been covered by workers' comp, would have been covered by your personal injury, would have been covered by insurance, but you don't have the money because you don't have workers' comp, you don't have insurance, you don't have enough money from the personal injury that you sustained to cover it. You need to be prepared so that if there is some type of procedure that a doctor is recommending that you need to receive that gives you some measure of relief, make sure you explain why you haven't had it yet. You know, I've had clients who've gone to health department doctors, and the health department doctor will say, this person needs to see an orthopedist. And guess what? They live in an area where no orthopedist will see them on a low share of cost or on a pro bono basis. So if you're talking about going to see an orthopedist who's charging you $300-400 just for a consult, you know, and you don't even have money to pay for food, you know, you got to make a choice. But you got to be prepared to explain that. And then finally, if you want to receive the treatment, let's say this particular treatment you're due to receive that you want to see, but you just flat can't afford it. Just like I mentioned before in terms of explaining why you can't do it. Make sure you exhaust every avenue to try to get that treatment. So let's say, for instance, you go to a health department and because you got a bad back, the health department doc says you really need to go to see an orthopedist. And you literally have a list of every orthopedist in your area and you call every one of them. You write each one of them a letter and they send you a letter back saying, nope, we don't do it for free. Got number love for you. Holla at your boy. Holla at your girl. Well, guess what? You want to show this. So when the judge says to you, well, have you got this treatment? Nobody will take me. Well, have you exhausted everybody? Have you contacted everybody? Sure. Here's a letter from this doc, letter from this doc, letter from this doc. I've tried all of them. Or maybe there is a share of cost where you have to pay a certain dollar amount before they'll help you. But you're like, I can't even pay that dollar amount. You got to be prepared to explain what avenues. Because remember, I know this sounds like a broken record and I hate telling this to people, but the regulations are clear. You have to prove you're disabled, not the other way around. So it is a lot better for you to be able to demonstrate to Social Security that you have taken every avenue that's available. And I always tell people, judges are not dumb. They know what is in your area. So if you come to them and say something crazy, they know they're not going to tell you to your face, but they're going to know. What does that mean? Well, guess what? If you sit, I've told clients who say, I can't go to the doctor. Have you tried the health department? Well, no, but they're not going to treat me. Let me tell you how much that's going to bite you in the backside because the judge is going to look at you and say, yes, they will. But you have not bothered because what's happened is you've decided in your mind that they're not going to do it as opposed to taking an affirmative step to doing it and having them tell you no and you showing it to the court. You see the difference between you thinking they won't do something and you proving that they won't? I know, please don't think I'm being condescending. It's just so important because so many times people get denied for these little things and get so frustrated because they don't understand why. I'm like, well, listen, because what happened is that you left your case in the hands of a decision maker to figure out if you're disabled. I've said this multiple times in videos. You do not want the government figuring out whether you're disabled. You, as the person responsible for proving you're disabled, should paint a picture for them that gives a detailed and accurate description of your situation to the best of your ability so that they have enough information to make that decision without having to figure out or fill in the blanks on their own.
I want to thank all of you for engaging in the videos. Make sure you take the opportunity to send me any comments or send me any particular questions that you want me to have addressed here. As you know, this show is for you, and so the only way I can make sure that I can provide you some good information is if you provide me some good questions. Keep them coming, and right here on Q&A, Social Security Disability Today.